Hiya, I'm Kate, and I'm going to be doing a little lesson with you, all about persuasive writing. So, have you got any idea what persuasive writing is? Yeah, it's when you write something to try and persuade someone. So it's really trying to convince the person who's reading it that your opinion is 100% correct. So for this example, we're going to be looking at a poem which is by the author Roald Dahl. Have you ever heard of Roald Dahl before? Yeah, he's a very famous author and he wrote loads and loads of children's books. Some of them you might have heard of are Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or Matilda. Those are some of his really, really famous children's books. And he also wrote a lot of poetry, one of which we're going to look at today, called Television. And the great thing about Roald Dahl was he was really, really creative. He loved writing and he loved using loads and loads of different language techniques, some of which we're going to be looking at today, to get his point across. So he's a really interesting author. So today we're going to be looking at television. So I'm going to quickly read it to you and then we'll go through it together. So, the most important thing we've learned so far as children are concerned is never, never, never let them near your television set. They loll and slop and lounge about and stare until their eyes pop out. Last week in someone's place we saw a dozen eyeballs on the floor. Oh yes, we know it keeps them still. They don't climb up on the windowsill. They never fight or kick or punch. They leave you free to cook the lunch and wash the dishes in the sink. But did you ever stop to wonder just exactly what this does to your beloved tot? It rots the sense in their head. It kills imagination dead. His brain becomes as soft as cheese. His powers of thinking rust and freeze. Have you forgotten? Don't you know? We'll say it very loud and slow. Children used to read. They'd read and read and read and read and then proceed to read some more. Great Scott, gazooks, one half their life was reading books. The nursery shelves held books galore, books cluttered up on the nursery floor. Such wondrous, fine, fantastic tales of dragons, gypsies, queens and whales, and pirates wearing purple pants, and sailing ships and elephants, and cannibals crouching round the pots, stirring away at something hot. It smells so good. What can it be? Good gracious, it's Penelope. The younger ones had Beatrix Potter, with Mr. Todd the dirty rotter, and Squirrel Nutkin, Pigling Bland, and Mrs. Tiggywinkle, and, oh books, what books they used to know, these children living long ago. So please, oh please, we beg, we pray, to go throw your television set away, and in its place you can install a lovely bookshelf on the wall. Fear not, because we promise you that in about a week or two they'll now begin to feel the need of having something good to read. Books will fill their hearts, they'll grow so keen, they'll wonder what they'd ever seen in that nauseating, foul, unclean, repulsive television screen. And later, each and every kid will love you more for what you did. So, that was the poem. What did you think? Yeah, it's quite fun, isn't it? It's a bit of a mouthful when you're reading it out loud, but it's a really fun poem. So I thought before we started our comprehension, we would quickly just talk about some words that are a bit tricky. So the first one is the word loll, which is found here. They loll and stop and lounge about. So that word loll means when you sit or stand kind of in a lazy way. So you know when you've watched TV all day and you're feeling a bit blah, that's because you've been lolling around all day. The next one is cannibals, which is here, cannibals crouching round the pot. Do you know what they are? Yeah, so they're people who eat other human beings, so a bit scary, but at least it's only in a children's book, he's saying here, hopefully. And nauseating, that's an adjective, and that's down here in that nauseating, foul, unclean television screen, which means causing someone to feel sick. So when you feel a bit ill, that's nauseating. So with that in mind, that word nauseating, what do you think, looking at the text, that the speaker thinks about TV? Yeah, he's not a big fan, is he? Let's use the highlighter so this question can be yellow. So, can we find an example from the text which shows what he thinks about TV? Yeah, that's a great example. So, never, never, never let them near your television set. So can we find some adjectives that he thinks about TV as well? Yeah, so what we were just saying about, so nauseating, foul, unclean, repulsive television screen. Those are some really strong adjectives, aren't they? So what do you think that he thinks about TV? Yeah, it's not very good, is it? But okay, so that's what Roald Dahl thinks about TV. And what does he say that watching TV does to your brain? Yeah, so it rots the sense in the head, kills imagination dead. He's not a big fan, is he? Bless him. No, he thinks that TV is gonna kind of rot all of the brain of all the children and kind of ruin all their brains. So not very good. And then what does he say that children should do instead of watching TV then? Yeah, he said that they children used to read and read and read. And what does he say will happen if you let your children read and get rid of your television? Yeah, good example. Books will fill their hearts. What does that do? What does that make you feel? A bit warm and fuzzy, doesn't it? So that's really persuasive because it's what we call emotive language. And emotive language is when you kind of get that warm and fuzzy feeling because the language is so powerful. So yeah, that's a really good example of emotive language there. Okay, so we've got all of our answers to our comprehension questions, and now we're going to go on to some more technical questions. Oh, sorry. So some more technical questions. So give an example, it says, of one simile and one metaphor that Roald Dahl uses. Now, do you know what a simile or a metaphor is? No, okay. So we're going to use our detective skills. Oh, let's just make that a different colour. We're going to use our detective skills to try and work out what a simile is, first of all. So if I tell you that this, his brain becomes as soft as cheese, is an example of a simile, then can we use our detective skills to try and work out what a simile is? Yeah, so it's a descriptive word and it works by comparing one thing to something else. So here, what is he comparing? Yeah, so he's comparing a child's brain to a lump of cheese, as soft as cheese. So by doing this, we need some comparative words. So what do you think is the comparative word here? As, yeah, exactly. So the best way to spot a simile is they usually use the words as or like, because those are our comparative words, okay? Amazing. So we've spotted our simile. So let's try and find our metaphor. What about something we've already highlighted? It kills imagination dead. Let's look at that. So given that that's a metaphor, what do you think a metaphor could be? This is a bit trickier. Yeah, so it's when you're saying that one thing is literally the same as something else. So in with a simile, you're saying it's like something. But in this, what is it? TV. Yeah, exactly. So TV kills imagination dead. So here, obviously TV can't actually kill anything, literally, as we say. But in this image, he becomes kind of like an assassin, someone that's capable of killing. And he chooses to kill imagination. So it's a metaphor because we know that TV can't literally kill. However, we use a metaphor to create the image that TV... What does that make TV seem? Yeah, a bit dangerous, a bit scary. So Roald Dahl's using that technique of a metaphor to kind of amp up how scary TV is. Amazing work. So we've got those two techniques. So then just looking quickly, we're asked, what is an example of a persuasive technique Dahl uses in the first 4 lines? So what stands out to you here as super persuasive? Yeah, so we look at the word never. Now, never is quite a strong word, isn't it? It's very persuasive. But not only that, he puts the word never 3 times. Now, do we know what it's called when you put a word more than once? It's called repetition. So that's when you might have heard the word repeats. So that's where that word comes from, because we're repeating the word 3 times. And quite often repetition comes in 3s because why do you think that is? Why do you think that's persuasive to you? Yeah, it really sticks in your head, doesn't it? And it really emphasises the word, is a word that we like to use, emphasises the word. So we're emphasising the word never, which makes us think, oh, we definitely shouldn't let them near television because he's used that repetition to make that word really stick in our minds. So, amazing work. We've identified some persuasive techniques, also learning about what metaphors and similes are and how they're persuasive. And we've also done a full comprehension of the poem. So we've now got a really, really good understanding of persuasive techniques and the poem itself. So well done.